Hello everyone. In this video, we'll see how to set up Postgres with Docker. Now, this is an optional uh, video for you. You may be satisfied with just using Postgres locally, uh, but if you're looking to try out something new, um, exploring, uh, another approach. Um, why not? Why not look and see if maybe this is something you'd like to use as well. So I won't, since this is not a Docker tutorial, I won't really explain what Docker really is and how to install it. So if you're interested in that, I would first pause the video and go look and find out about Docker. If you're still interested and you want to continue on with this video, then go and see how to install it. Docker is operating system independent, so you could have it for Windows, Mac, Linux as well. So it should not be an issue. So I guess let's get started. So I'm assuming now you have Docker installed, Docker desktop. So click on Docker desktop, just get it started, minimize it, and then what you want to do afterwards is you want to run this command, docker world, just to see if you really have it and see if it's started. So once you see this message, you're good to go. So what's our goal? Our goal is to set up Postgres. We want to use Postgres, and in this video we can set up Postgres using Docker. So the first thing you want to do is I guess another thing as well, you could just follow along with me. uh, don't really need to know too much about the commands that I'm going to type in, but if there's something that I can explain, I will explain it very briefly. Um, but yes, another thing I would suggest is, if you're interested in carrying on with this, create a text file or any file type you want. Keep that to the side and copy and paste the commands that I'll be typing in as we go along. So the thing about Docker commands is they can get very long, so just keep that in mind. So the first thing we want to do is we want to create a network. Okay, so Docker network create, and this is the name of our network. So why do we need to do this? Well, I'll not really tell you why, but later on in this video, I want to also show how you could connect to Postgres via a user interface or a development environment as well. So we will need this for later on. So we'll just create this network, and then the next thing we want to do is we want to type in this command. Now this command is probably the longest command here. So what we want here is okay, so what am I doing here is we want to create a container, and in this container we want to use Postgres. Now what is a container? Specifically Docker container. You could think of it as an imaginary computer floating in the sky, and in this imaginary computer we want to set up our Postgres software or server in it. So the name of our container will be learning Postgres. So this is up to you, but I would just suggest using the same names that I'm using so you can follow along smoothly and you won't forget or have differences in the names that I'm using. But yes, so this is one thing that is easy to know. We're naming our container learning Postgres, and let's carry on to the next thing. The next thing is we have the ports. And then afterwards, we have our environment variables. These variables are used for our Postgres server. Or in other words, we want to get access to our Postgres server, we need to use these environment variables, the username and the password. And the password, you could choose whatever you want, but I'm using pass123, and like I said, it's best to just use the same values that I'm using so you can follow along smooth. And then afterwards, now this one is a bit, you need to know exactly how Docker works. This is called a volume. This is where we will be storing our Postgres data. But you don't need to know too much, you could just follow along. And then lastly, before that, we saw in the beginning we created a network. And then lastly, here is maybe something you should know as well. Postgres 17.4. Now this last line that the last thing I've typed is the Postgres version that we want to run. In Docker, this is called an image. This is basically the software that we want to put in our container. One of the cool things about Docker is, let's say for example, we don't want this version. Well, it's pretty easy. We can just rerun this command again. We could change the version, 17.3, 17.2, whatever, and we will easily be able to create an environment where we have different Postgres versions. From experience, using Postgres locally, specifically on Windows, I had Windows before this, it was a bit difficult to have two versions at the same time, and especially when you want to delete a version that you've had. From my experiences, it was very difficult, and but maybe there's something I didn't know of, but yeah, Docker, using Postgres on Docker is super easy to change versions, to delete versions that you don't want, upgrade to another version. So that's one of the cool things about Docker. And if that's what you want to do, you want to use different versions, that's what you plan to do, then Docker would be something I would suggest because it makes it very easy. So now that we have our command, that's the end of it. It's a bit long, but now we're good to go. So we press enter, we let the command run. Okay, and then after running, it gives us the container ID. So what we want to do next is we want to check and see if our imaginary computer with Postgres is running. So what we want to do here is we want to type this command, and yes. So if you notice here, the ID matches here at the beginning, and then we have our container that we named here. So that means we're good to go, we have it running. So what we want to do next is we want to actually use our Postgres server that we created in this Docker container. What we want to do is we're going to type this command, and I promise this is the last command you need to actually get started. So just type along with me, and then I'll explain if there's anything that needs to be explained. Okay, so this is the command. I'm going to use this, And then if you notice here, we want to use the same name of the container that we have or that we used here. So these need to match. And if you notice here again, -u stands for user. This should match the user that we have here. So once you have this, you can press enter, and there we go, we're in our server. So once we're in our server, let's just check real quick. Does it work? Yes, it works. So that's the idea. That's the just 2 commands, I guess 3, but the first one you won't need to type again. And even the long one you don't need to type again, and we'll see what I mean by that. And so now we're in the server, we did our, let's say we did our work, and now we want to exit. So to exit, \q or /, I don't remember, but it's a /q, and then we're outside the server. Okay. Now, exiting the server does not mean that we've stopped our container. In other words, we've not, let's say our container we said is our imaginary computer. We did not shut down our computer. So, and to verify that, we've exited our server, but now we still have the container running. So let's say you're done with your work and you want to close down everything. So to do that, you want to do docker stop. We want to use the same name that we gave. Docker stop, learning Postgres. It should be the matching. So now we type that command, we press enter, and then let's see if it's actually running. And no, it's not running. If you could see here, there is no, you don't get this container ID value. Don't get this here. Okay, so now let's say the next day I want to come and start working again. Well, do I need to type in this long command again? No, you don't, luckily. What we want to do is similar to this command here, docker stop. Just change from stop, make it start, docker start. You want to use the same name again. And then let's see if it's actually running, and yes, it is running. And then we could use the same command here to actually enter our server and start working in our server. And quit it again, and there we go. So this is how simple it is. It may not be simple for you, but with just a few commands you could start, you could create, you could start, you could enter your server, you could exit your server, and like I said, it's better that you create a file where you have these commands ready for you to copy and paste instead of writing them down, because they could be long, but there's some commands here like docker stop, docker start that are very easy to follow along with. So once you get in the habit of doing this stuff, you'll notice that it's very easy to access your servers each time. So that's the idea of creating or setting up Postgres with Docker. So we have our server, and let's just clear everything. Now, as we saw, the only way to use our server is through the terminal. Now, based on your personal preference, you may not enjoy the terminal, and working with code sometimes can be much easier to view when it's on a graphical user interface, such as a development environment. So we can also do that. This next part, we will see how to set up pgAdmin, which is the interface, the graphical user interface for Postgres. We'll see how to set that up on Docker. So make sure to have your server set up and everything. And let's see, we have that in the background, it's running. Now what you want to do is we can again, we could type in another command. Now this one is going to be another long command, but it's the same idea here. where we created a container for our server. We also want to create another container, another imaginary computer where we have our interface set up. Again, we're going to use docker run. Want to give it a name. Again, we'll also follow the same name format. Again, this is long, but it's detailed. I know exactly what this container is for, but it's up to you. You can choose the name that you want. So we'll give that name. Next, we have our ports. Again, you could just follow along with me. You don't need to know exactly what this is for. Here you could give whatever you want. And then finally, we want to give it the image. This is the software that we want to put in our imaginary computer. That software is pgAdmin. And then let me check if everything's correct. One last thing we want to do as well is, as we saw in the very beginning, we created a network. This is where the network comes in. So we have two imaginary computers, the containers. We have a container, an imaginary computer for our server. We have another imaginary computer which has our interface where we could work on where we could connect to the server. But to easily create this connection, we can set up these containers, these imaginary computers, on the same network, and doing this will allow us to then communicate between the interface, which is our pgAdmin, and our PostgreSQL server. So if you didn't understand why we created the network in the beginning, this is the main idea. But again, there's no point. You don't really need to know exactly what's going on. Just you can just type along with me. Okay, once you have that in, make sure the command is the same thing, and then just check just enter the command, and we will let it do its thing. Okay, now that you get this message here, listening at HTTP and then port 80, you should be good to go now. What you want to do now is, you might be wondering, how are we going to access this interface? Well, the cool thing is you just need a browser. We can access it through the browser. So choose your browser of your choice and go to it, and then again here, it says here listening at HTTP here, and this is the local host, port 80. I'm going to type in the same one here, so just type in localhost :80. Now the 80 should match the ports that I believe it's the right one here. So if you had a different value on the left, use the right one. But I'm not exactly sure about that. So if you've used a different value here, you tried this one, it didn't work, maybe try this one. But I believe it's the right one. So, but yeah, since we used the same value here, I guess there's only one choice. So let's type that in. Let's press enter. Here again, we need to log in. We need to put your email and password. What you want to do is I want to use the same values here. This is the email. This is the password. Okay, once you put those in, press login. And then obviously this is light mode. I'm not a fan of light mode. So what you can do if you're not a fan, just like me, come here to user interface, and you could change the theme here. You have dark, you have high contrast, but I prefer dark. It's much more comfortable on the eyes. And then you could press save. And then again, so we have our interface. We need to connect to our server. So what you want to do is you want to come here to the left, you want to right click, and then you want to register. You want to go to server here. Now, what we need to do is we need to give it a name. We want to give, so we'll use the same name as our server, just to know that, okay, we're connecting to the server. That server's name is learning Postgres, just like we named it. Go here. So we named our container with our server learning Postgres. We'll just use that same name, but it's obviously up to you. Okay, and then the next thing you want to do is you want to come here to connection. What we want to do is provide a host name. Since we put them on the same network, we could just use localhost. And then the port is 5432. Again here, so this one, if you go back to the, I guess it's easier. If you go back to the command that we used to create our server, we gave it to, if you look at this line here, -p, P stands for ports. We use these two values. So what you want to use for the interface port, you want to use the right one here. So if you use the different value here, you want to use the right one. But again, since I use the same values, there's only one choice. But yeah, I'm going to use the right one. So we have that here. And then finally, we have our username again. If you go back to this command here, the one we used to create our server, we specify the PostgreSQL Postgres user. We want to use this one and the password. So we want to use these values here for these fields here. And password pass 1 2 3. And then once we're done with that, save. A mistake from my side here, instead of putting localhost, you want to put the name of the container. So if you go back here, go back to the first command that we typed in here to create our Postgres server container, we use the name here. So you want to use the same value, you want to put it here. So now I've saved, and now everything should be good to go. We can connect to our server via our graphical user interface. So if we do that, I'm going to come here, databases, this is the database, this is the default database. What I'm going to do here, we could use query tool, and then we could do the same thing here. So the cool thing about the user interface is it's much better to view. We could do execute script, or we could execute query. So, and then so much better thing about the interface is it gives us a much better looking table instead of the terminal view. So we saw how to create it. What we can do next is again the same thing. Let's say we want to stop. We could do the same commands. We could do docker stop. We could put in the I guess I'll just show it, but I guess the idea is you now have two approaches to using Postgres on Docker. You could use it via the terminal, or you could use it via the interface, and we will alternate depending on what we need. So having this is something needed as well. So that's very important. So let's say we want to stop this. we could simply exit out, and then we have it here. So let's go to a new terminal. Same thing here. Let's make this bigger. So even though we exited, as we saw, we still have it running. So we can do docker stop. We can use the same name here. And then let's check again. And now we've successfully stopped our interface. So that's the idea. That's the same thing. If we want to start it again, we could do docker start. We could put in the same name, and we could follow the same steps that we used. Go to your browser, put in localhost 80, and this time the server should be already added for you. You don't need to configure the server again. So, but if not, then you know exactly how to do that. So finally, let's just stop the server to finish things off. And let's check one last time, and we're good to go. We have no containers running. We can stop now. So here we could also see that it's stopped as well. So it's shut down. We're good to go as well. We can close down everything. And so that's the basic idea. We've seen how to set up Postgres with Docker. We could use it via terminal. We could also use it via pgAdmin, which gives us a much better view via a user interface. And yeah, this is up to you, whatever you want to use, but I'd recommend using both approaches to use Postgres. But yeah, that's it for the video, and I'll see you next time.